dropped my flashlight and ran. Welcome to 10 Minute Travels. With me, as always, is Phil Freeman.
And with me, as always, is Shane Patrick. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about flying helicopters in Africa.
Let's get right to it, shall we?
Any close calls with megafauna?
Oh yeah, megafauna. Yeah, so the deal is you are not allowed to walk around by yourself at night. During the day, they let people, go to and from the camp to the tent or whatever. But at night, you got to be escorted. And so...
Escorted by...
A guide.
A guide with carrying...
In Botswana, they're not carrying firearms. It's against the law. In other countries...
Botswana historically is a colony, right?
They were never colonized.
Really? Very
The English
done.
spent some time there on their southern border when they were having the Boer War with...
Right.
Yeah, so the guides are well trained. To be a guide in Botswana takes about as much time education-wise as it does to become a doctor.
Really?
Yeah. And their medical doctors are not our medical doctors. I would say their doctors are our equivalent of a nurse, and their nurses are maybe our equivalent of like an EMT or something. They're a little behind us in their whole education scheme, but not that far behind us. And at any rate, guides are well educated, respected positions. And
you have to be licensed, right?
You do. And there's recurrency, and it's far reaching from what kind of bird is that to build a fire right now.
Oh yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
Anyone who's guided, they would know.
Yeah. And so what I said to those guides in the camp is, hey, I'm going to be here for a couple years, and I am not going to always wait for one of you guys when I want to go to my bed or when I want a cup of coffee and I'm in my bed, whatever. So how about if you train me so I can come and go as I please?
Come and go from where?
From the main camp to my tent, or from my tent to the hangar where the helicopter is, that sort of thing. And so they gave me some basics. And they're all pretty simple basics, Like, when I first got there, I was pretty freaked out about walking around at night and having a leopard jump out of a tree onto me. But then I learned leopards don't jump out of trees onto prey. They come running down the tree and then on the ground and kill the prey. You're never going to get away from a leopard if it wants to kill you. Most of them don't want to kill you. Don't you feel better?
Well, when you said most, I felt good. I did want to have a solid percentage, but I know that that's not possible.
Right. Yeah, go with most. And, there's stuff about elephants. They're a lot like our bears and moose. They have some very distinct ways of telling you you're too close. And as long as you know those things, you can probably not be too close and it'll all work out.
You can body language yourself.
Yeah, and we had 3 bachelors that were in our camp often, and you get to know them. And a really cool thing about elephants is they're wicked smart, So you can just say, good morning, and they have big ears, gigantic ears. So you know that they heard you. And if they keep eating, you can go about your business. If they stop eating, you should stop. And if they turn and look at you or flap their ears or trumpet, you should probably take the long way around to get your coffee. Because he or she, and it's mostly the bachelor herds where I was living, that's what we had most for interaction with, they told you, leave me alone. Not today. And then there's the hippopotamus. They are a little bit harder to read because their ears are smaller, so you can't see what they're really doing with them. And
maybe not listening.
They might not be listening, yeah. And they are super territorial. And probably because they're scared, you know. They have to stay in the water all day, basically, or they'll get sunburned. And so at night, they'll come out of the water and they'll go a long ways from the water, up to 5 kilometers.
That's 3 miles, 3.5.
Yeah, 3 miles, give or take, to feed. In the Okavango Delta, they didn't have to go very far to feed. There was plenty of food because there's so much water. But the moral of the story is you do not want to be between a hippopotamus and the water because they feel safe in the water. When they feel threatened, they will go to the water and everything in their path will be destroyed. And they can open their mouth a meter. They have 4 incisors that are ivory and they're really long. You know, every year there's reports of them putting holes in boats that are, you know, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch or aluminum, you know. And they kill more people in Africa than crocodiles or lions or anything. And so we had lots of hippos, and that was the main thing that the guides spent most of their time talking to me about. The big thing is avoidance. You know, as long as you see them before you get between them and the water, it's probably going to be fine. So they're going to leave you alone. You might have to, you know, sleep in the TV room or whatever, not get back to your tent, but
Dang, that's
but whatever, that's
something
fine.
away that evening.
Yeah.
Going outside, I might see this.
So one night I was casting my torch back and forth. You know, as a big mag light, the hold 4D batteries.
The 2-hander, like the cop.
Yeah, good wamping stick.
Yeah.
You know, just
Sure.
in case you want to womp yourself and not get knocked out, so you don't have to remember it all.
Right.
So I was swinging my light back and forth, walking down the path, look up in the trees, no leopards.
And you're the furthest tent out on the camp, right?
Yeah.
You're going into the food chain.
Yep. On the other side of my tent is nothing until Angola. Hundreds and hundreds of miles. But right behind me, there's, you know, 35, 40 people, whatever. But yeah, swinging my light back and forth. I'm like, hey, they have, hippos have tapetum lucidium. It's that stuff that, you know, deer caught in headlights makes their eyes reflect, and
Right.
they have that. And
Don't frogs have that? Some do.
some frogs do, yep. And so my light with their eyes, it made it look red. So I swing my light and there's 2 red eyes. So I know it's a hippo, you know. And luckily, because I was going to just slowly back away. But it starts to get up really quickly. Luckily, it was laying down and it was pointed the opposite direction from the water. I'm between the water and this hippopotamus. You know, life comes down to moments, and I didn't think. I just dropped my flashlight and ran away from that thing. It happened to be towards the water, but also towards a guest tent. And so I ran down the path to the guest tent.
Why did you drop it?
I have no idea. No idea. It was just reaction. I kept my water bottle for
Fight or
some
flight.
stupid reason.
But I think that's an interesting play because you drop the light source. So the light source is there, and now you have a decoy to work off of. So if it charges the light, you're good.
The next time I tell the story, it's going to be that way. That I left the light to distract him.
Sure. Though I think it's plausible.
Yeah, sure. I don't remember thinking that. But what I do remember is running to that down towards the water, you know, to this other cabin. And it's only like, I don't know, I went like 20 steps maybe. And up onto their deck. Hippos an 8-inch hill is insurmountable for them. Really? They can't bend their legs that way.
Okay.
They're super strong. Yeah. So I stood on the deck and like he went right past me into the water, splashing whatever. And I just, I was over breathing. I had adrenaline. My one leg was, going up and down, sewing machine style, because I was just full of energy. And those 2 Australians dreaming about, I don't know what they were dreaming about, lion kills or something. They had no idea that I was on their front porch, basically whimpering.
Were they snoring the whole time?
I could hear them in there.
Snorchestra.
The snorchestra. Yeah, so that's their megafauna. Yeah, and they're vegetarians, but they're strong.
What's it called when they're an omnivore though, right?
Mm-mm.
They're a vegetarian, full on.
Yeah, there's some.
So what does it mean when a vegetarian kills a carnivore or an omnivore?
There's some evidence of them tearing stuff up, meat bodies, but there's no evidence of them ever ingesting it. It's sort of a mystery. Yeah, and the native people have a creation myth about the hippopotamus talking to God and making a deal to not eat the fish, but it wants to hang out in the water because it doesn't like the sun. And God told them it's totally cool, but they can't poop in the water. That's the fish's home. And so they defecate on land. That's a thing they do. And in the creation myth, so when they defecate, it's fairly explosive and it doesn't go down, it kind of goes back. And they wag
like a sprinkler.
And they wag their tail to spread it all out.
It comes out like a moose, like it's like a nugget.
No, it's more like a cow with diarrhea. It's super wet.
Oh, so various sizes and textures.
It looks like
It's not.
it looks like chewed grass, slimy chewed grass, but it's spread because their tail. They wag their tail while they do it, and that creation myth that the natives have is that God makes them. He made them agree to poop that way so that it'll spread all their feces out, and he'll be able to check it for bones, make sure there's no bones in there.
No bones in the poo.
Poop, no bones.
Boneless poo.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
That was Shane Patrick talking about flying helicopters in Africa. If you want to learn more about Shane or listen to more 10-minute travels, please check us out at 10minutetravels.com.
And we want to remind you to make sure that your sense of humor matches your sense of adventure.